From the campus of the Connecticut School of Broadcasting, in the beautiful city of Palm Beach, Florida, this is Kreiner'S Korner, the podcast you won't stop talking about for days. And now, here's Jeff Kreiner.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Kreiner'S Korner. Antonio, welcome.
Thank you, Jeff. How are you today?
Terrific. We have a guest today that I'm really thankful to that he took some time to talk to us. He's someone I know from CBS, and I never really worked with him, but I certainly know of him and knew his how many people liked him and really enjoyed working for him.
I'm noticing that's a trend where you know like everybody there, and you just kind of meander about.
A lot of years at CBS. He was a director at CBS. He now is a producer, director, writer. He's a composer. He's the director of Saturday Night Live. Don, welcome.
Well, thank you so much. It's my pleasure.
Don, I know of you certainly because we worked at the same place for many years.
Right.
Your style of directing, you know, I've worked with all different types of directors. I've worked with directors that throw chairs. You always were at the calmest of levels, I've always been told. I know you stand when you direct, which is very different from any of the directors I've worked with. Tell me what got you started in this business and to say that you really wanted to be a director?
Well, when I was at school at Penn State, I really wanted to be an actor, and I had an acting bug from the time I was a little kid, but got waylaid into sports, but then circled back around. And at Penn State, at my size, my athletic career probably was over, so I wandered back into the theater department. I didn't have the guts to tell my dad I wanted to be an acting major, so I thought I'll get as close as I can and become a broadcasting major. I really had no ongoing love for television, but did have a love for theater, and sort of spent most of my time in the theater department while taking broadcasting courses. But my senior year, we had a production course, which was practical, and we were divided into little groups and had to produce a television show. And each of us was assigned a different role. And I think I was the producer of my team. And we went out and did some interviews, and the culmination of our project was a live to tape interview, sort of a panel discussion of people who had participated in some project. And the guy who was assigned to direct it put the headsets on, and he said, roll tape, and he said, okay, ready to take one. No, I mean three. No, wait a minute, no. He said, oh, pan. Oh, I said, whoa, stop. Let's start this over again. I said, let me try this. And I put the headsets on, and I started to call the shots and started to follow the action as it happened, and try to keep my eye on the clock and make sure that I was covered in all. If anybody talked at any given time, I knew that I had coverage, and I was barking orders as quickly as I could, as efficiently as I could to the rest of the team, the camera operators and the audio people, and the people were rolling back the videotape we had shot earlier. And when it ended, I thought, oh, that was kind of an adrenaline rush, and it sort of felt familiar. And I realized it was much like quarterbacking a football team.
Right. And
I had been a quarterback in high school and in little league football, and I love that feeling. And to this day, I get that same adrenaline rush. I get that same sense of I'm calling the shots, but it's really a giant team effort, and it feels much like a football game every Saturday night.
It is. Live television is that. It's so hard to explain to people that don't understand live television, but it is a high that you can't explain. I mean, it's unbelievable, right?
That's exactly right. And I still get that same rush.
Now, when you direct, you stand when you direct. And I say that because I've never worked with a director that stood when he did his job. And I know you had a podium there, and it was like an orchestra, like you said. You're the leader, and it makes you feel... is that why you do it, and standing?
When I was directing the Mike Douglas show, which was a daytime variety show, sort of like Ellen, in the in the 70s.
Right.
I found myself standing up during musical performances, and it just sort of helped me stay concentrated and helped me stay rhythmic. I sort of danced with the music and called the shots while standing and rotating from one camera to the next. And I realized that my energy level was higher and my concentration level was higher when I was standing. And although I can't stand through all of Saturday Night Live, primarily because it is so tightly scripted, and the technical director sitting beside me, who's punching the buttons that I'm calling, he has to sort of look over my shoulder to be able to see my script.
Right.
So I sort of perch during sketches, but I still stand during the musical performances.
Right. Now, you won an Emmy in 1977 for the Mike Douglas Show, which I remember that show. I don't know many of my listeners, certainly my students have no clue who I'm talking about.
I'll admit to that right now.
Right.
But overall, you have 9 Emmys, and 7 Emmys were from Saturday Night Live alone, right?
That's right.
That's incredible.
And
That's incredible.
Well, let me tell a little Emmy story.
Okay.
I'm very proud of those statues, and then I'm not going to give them back.
Right.
But I did realize early on it's not quite what it seems. It doesn't mean quite as much as one thinks. And that happened for me because I did win that one in 1976, and overnight I became a jerk.
Right.
I was a 25-year-old kid or something, and won this statue, and I thought, oh my God, I think God created television just so I could show off. and the very next day, I treated people differently, and I was an idiot, and I was self-righteous and demanding. And a producer would come and say, I think I'd like to do this segment this way, and I'd say, oh, wait a minute, I have an Emmy. I don't do it my way. We'll do it the way I had laid it out. Well, not long after that, I started to get asked to be on blue ribbon panels, people who look at the nominated shows and help decide who gets an Emmy for any given category. And at the time, we would all gather for an entire weekend and sit in a hotel room and watch show after show after show, and it was a painful experience. And after about the 5th show, you start to say, please, I don't care how well it's directed. I just want to stay awake. So put on a show that at least is fun to watch. Right? And I would stop looking at the direction and just look at the quality of the content of the show. And afterwards I thought, I really didn't give that director a fair judgment because I was just trying to stay awake. And I realized that that's probably the case in many of those judging sessions, and I look back at the show I won for, and I realized that it was a show there where Mike asked Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire to come on the show and talk about old-time Hollywood.
Right.
And they had never done that before, not the two of them together. And it was a fascinating show, the two of them talking those old stories about what it was like to be in the Hollywood heyday. And I said, it had nothing to do with the directing. It was just a great show that kept those judges awake in the weekend when they were in that hotel room.
Right.
And they said, boy, that's the best show we watched all day. Let's give that director the statue. And from that point on, I came to the sobering realization that winning that statue has a lot more to do with the quality of the show. And in my case, with Saturday Night Live, the quality of the writing and the performing and the host and the musical guests and how they all gel. Right. And as long as I do my best to stay out of the way and sort of capture a little bit of the magic that those people have created, then it's going to be a show worth watching, and occasionally a show that'll get me a statue.
No, you certainly do that, and I know you play it down, your role in it, but your role is crucial because you put it all together. They come up with the creative ideas. You have terrific writers there that come up with amazing ideas every week. I know that's got to be very tough to do, but you do put everything together, and that's special. That's a special job you have. I worked at NBC. Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Jeff.
I worked at NBC for 3 years, and I'd never have been more scared than this one time, and I think you'll relate to this. I've worked with all 8,000-pound gorillas at CBS, ABC, and NBC. But I had to do a pitch to Lorne Michaels with an idea that I had for a promo. And I thought it was very funny. In fact, I noticed how you're laughing already. I showed this spot to like 8 other people. And I said, is this funny? Just tell me if you think this is funny. And they all laughed. They all laughed. But this is before the meeting. I go down to his office. And I like how you're laughing already. I go down to his office. He's got his writers there. Smigel was there. A bunch of people were there. And I said, Lauren, I have this interesting idea. I show it to him. And it was like the movie Springtime for Hitler. They all looked at me like there was no one laughing. I was the only one laughing. I wanted to crawl underneath the carpet. And he was very nice. He was very nice about it. He said, thank you. We'll take it into consideration. And I knew that was a nice way of saying thanks a lot, but we'll come up with the ideas. Thank you. The news guy's not going to do it, right? I just thought I was so afraid of doing that. And you deal with him every week. How do you deal with that?
Well, you have hit on the crux of my issues and the entire operations issues, and it comes down to this. Saturday Night Live exists because of Lorne Michaels. It continues to excel, continues to stay relevant, continues to make meaningful contributions to comedy in this country, and maybe even deeper contributions beyond that because of Lorne Michaels. He is brilliant, and he has a remarkable sense of what works and what doesn't. Mm-hmm. And he demands excellence every single week, and he refuses to coast. I mean, that man has every right to coast, and it's fun to coast, but he will not coast. And I have enormous respect for him, but at the same time, he can be nasty and cold and non-communicative and doesn't seem to be a particularly happy man.
Human, I guess, right? He could be human sometimes.
Yeah, yes. But every week, if you'd asked me 13 years ago, can a show even be done the way this one is, where there's nothing even on paper until Wednesday afternoon, to where changes are being made straight from Wednesday until in the middle of the show live on the air.
Right.
I would say absolutely not. There's no way that a show could come together this quickly. There's no way that a high-profile show like this would take as many risks as it takes in changes, in reordering, in throwing sketches out, in spending money on stuff that never makes it to air.
And you really direct 2 shows on Saturday, right? You do the dress rehearsal, which is a full show, if not more. And then you do the real show, right?
As much as 25, 30 minutes more material than we need in that dress rehearsal.
It's amazing.
And then between dress rehearsal and that dress rehearsal might end at 10 o'clock at night, and by 10:20, Lorne has thrown out 2 or 3 sketches entirely. He has reordered the rest of the show, and I'll get my script back with 100 Post-its in it, and I go from Post-it to Post-it, where every Post-it has changes. The entire page will be X'd out.
Let me ask you, do you sleep?
Handwritten jokes written in on the next page.
Do you sleep between Wednesday and Sunday?
Say that again.
Are you able to sleep between Wednesday and Sunday?
Oh, well, I still get amped up, and I'm a little beat up on Sundays. But the week is as intense as it is, as high a mountain to climb as it is. I have never had more fun climbing, and it's a job that's by far the best job I ever had. It's a show designed to make people laugh and clap and occasionally think, and you get to work with the most remarkable people in the world, the best designers and the best wardrobe people and hair and makeup people. They're brilliant and fast, and then in addition to the remarkable cast and certainly the finest writers in comedy. And then there's a new host every week, and that's a whole different set of challenges and a whole different set of rewards as well.
Right. How many?
Go
ahead. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
How many meetings do you attend before you do the broadcast on Saturday night? Can you even count them? Are they just one after another?
We have one meeting on Monday where we first meet the hosts and throw out ideas, and that only lasts 45 minutes or so. Do relatively nothing on Tuesday. Wednesday will come in, and on my desk will be 40 sketches, and I'll spend the morning reading through those to see what can and can't be done. We have a read-through a Wednesday starting about 3:30 in the afternoon, where we just sit around a table with the entire cast and the host and Lorne, and then the rest of the room filled up with other staff members as sort of a show audience, and we'll just script in hand read through all 40 of those sketches, and it takes hours to do. Wednesday night about 8:30, Lorne will have narrowed those sketches down to the 9 or 10 or 12 that will actually mount. And then for the first time, I take those selected sketches into a different room and hand it off to all those other people who are involved in starting from scratch to bring those one-act plays to life. Thursday we go back in and rehearse the guest band for a couple of passes on their music. We'll tape some promos, and then we'll rehearse the simple sketches, the ones that don't need much scenery or don't need much in the way of props or things that we can just sort of figure through. Go back in Friday and rehearse the more complex sketches, and each sketch gets about an hour's work. Wednesday night, what at that point is usually written, the cold open and maybe some monologue blocking. And by midnight, we're finished with that and walk into Lorne's office, and he has now narrowed down to exactly how we will lay out the dress rehearsal. We come back in Saturday, and now the work of all those brilliant artists has been finished, and that studio is filled with sets and props and special effects that bring those things to life. We rehearse each sketch again, go just one quick run through for each of them, now in full costume and makeup, and then rehearse the weekend update and break for a quick meal and come back and do the dress rehearsal. And after the dress rehearsal, all those changes are made, and we scramble to try to make all those changes happen and go on the air live and fly at 11:30.
Incredible, incredible. Do you have a favorite sketch that you've done on SNL? Of all of them you've done, is it possible to even have one?
Well, from a selfish standpoint, the sketches I like are the ones we've done before,
right?
Because I've figured them out, and I know where to place the cameras and how the choreography works and where the entrances should be, and I love when they say, okay, this will be in the Oval Office, or this will be wet up with that. Some sketch that is a repeating one that I've figured out. And in the same way, I love hosts who have done the show before, especially old cast members, because
right.
they know
what to do, right?
They know the demands, and they know where the men's room is.
Right.
It makes it a lot easier.
Right, right.
But it's often most challenging and most rewarding with a brand new host or someone who comes in who has no idea what this process is all about. And we have hosts who are sports figures or politicians or rappers or TV actors who have never done anything live. And it's thrilling to watch those brilliant people out of their element and see how they handle the amazing stress
right.
that is placed on a host.
I bet.
And they, in many ways, are putting their reputations and their image in our hands, and in 3 days have to come up with a whole set of characters and a whole different way of working and a whole speed at which you've got to learn how to read cue cards and move from character to character and sketch to sketch, and it's really rewarding to see that process.
Don, I have a question for you.
Yes.
I was asked to ask you this question. How does an aspiring sketch writer grab attention out there?
Wait, I'm sorry, repeat that?
How does an aspiring sketch writer grab attention?
How do they get noticed? Where do they go? Do they get an agent or what?
What would you say to do to that aspiring sketch writer?
Well, I wish I knew the answer to that. Get that.
Well, there we go.
I get asked that. Asked that a lot by aspiring writers and more often by aspiring performers. And I know that the writing process, they make submissions with a packet of sketches. I'm not sure exactly how many they're asked for or variety they're asked for, but usually it's a commercial parody and something political and something topical and maybe a game show, and they submit those packets through a channel of people at Saturday Night Live who read them mostly in the summertime and narrow it down. I think most of our writers, though, come from the comedy improv world where they've done some sketch material and have worked with other writers who are already on the show or other performers who are cast members.
I see.
That happens a lot. Now, the cast members is sort of a similar situation. We have an entire talent department that goes out and takes a look at comedy clubs and stand-up people, and certainly improv and sketch clubs around the country. And we now get submissions of reels of material where people have put the various characters or impressions that they do or songs that they've sung and to stick them on a reel and send them in, and those get vetted through the talent department. And then the talent department also goes to different clubs around the country and screens some people live. And those that make it through all of that process then come in and audition in Studio 8H once, maybe twice a year. And that process is harrowing, and I feel for those kids. I mean, just
don't we all?
Those who have dreamed of being a cast member of Saturday Night Live, who made it through that process of submitting their stuff or being screened out in the real world, and now they get 5 minutes to stand on an AAH stage with Lauren and the producers and writers sitting off to the side, and me directing a single camera from the control room, and they are now, their lives could change overnight, but unfortunately, most of the time it doesn't, because we'll audition 25 people and maybe take one, and those dreams can get crushed pretty fast.
Wow.
And it's painful to see, but it's also heartening to know that occasionally it happens, and Lauren certainly has a reputation for finding a whole generation of comedic brilliance in the past 40 years, and one of them could be that next find.
Interesting.
But probably not.
Don, as a creative director at CBS News and the director of The Early Show and CBS This Morning, as well as director of Good Morning America, how has that prepared you to do this type of live television? How different is the news part to Saturday Night Live?
Well, I would say that on the one hand, I had such a variety of opportunities on my career to direct a little bit of a lot of things. As a result, I understood the genres of everything Saturday Night Live makes fun of. So I could direct a fake news show.
Right.
I could direct a fake talk show or game show. I could create the look of any of those genres because I had done them for real. But what I hadn't done was work with actors in real sketch comedy, and that was an enormous learning curve. Mm-hmm. And quite frankly, when I got the first interview back in 2006, I thought, well, I've done a lot of television, maybe more live television than anybody, and I can certainly direct music, and I can direct all of these styles. But I'm not sure that I can direct sketch comedy. I haven't done very much of it. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, the producers I interviewed with and eventually with Lauren all made it clear that they were hoping to find somebody who had sketch comedy experience. And I walked out of there saying, well, it was great to get this far, but right. I just don't have what they need.
Right.
And then they kind of were in panic mode, and I was as close as they were going to get to somebody who had what they needed, and they said, we're going to take a chance on you, and I am so glad they did.
Well, it's a good choice that they did. It really is. Putting together the music acts on SNL has got to be a lot of work, just doing that part of the show. Am I right in assuming that can be very difficult at times?
Yeah, it's difficult for a variety of reasons. One is that each act comes in with a different style and a different musical sensibility. And over the past 10 years, we've given them the latitude to even ask for different looks and different set design and different lighting effects.
Right.
And because we've done that, I had to sort of adapt to the performer's style every week. And there was a time in probably the first 20 years of the show when what was unique about Saturday Night Live's music is that no matter what the style was, no matter who the performer was, they were playing in the room that was Saturday Night Live.
Right, the
You
environment.
always knew that it had the exact same look every week. It was
Right.
more like an unplugged version of what they did.
Right.
It wasn't their concert trying to be reproduced in Saturday Night Live. It was them adapting to the look and style and set design and lighting of Saturday Night Live. And I think that was what made Saturday Night Live's music different and special. But we've gotten away from that. Whether it's good or bad, we now are working more in the other direction. We're trying to recreate a Kanye West concert in the middle of our studio and in the middle of our show. And again, whether it's good or bad, it does create a whole separate set of challenges for me.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Because we get the option of opportunity to rehearse them on Thursday. I can tape the 2 passes of each song that they do in a multiple camera format, and then Thursday night I break it down, usually shot for shot, and try to treat it in a way that's much tighter than most television performances of music are.
Right, right.
And the other issue is that Lorne himself has a very specific approach to how music should look on television, and his belief is that we should put the audience in that room and make them feel like they are sitting there on the floor of that studio watching the performance. And if you're sitting on the floor watching the performance, you're not seeing a drum shot from behind. You're not seeing an odd angle from up above looking down on the band.
Right.
You're not showing off what the cameras can do. You're watching a performance that's being staged for that live audience, and they're playing out to those people sitting there watching them live.
How many cameras?
My job is to recreate that.
How many cameras do you use on your show?
5.
5. Okay. I know you have a love with Broadway and Broadway stage, and you're creative director of Broadway Worldwide. Can you give me, just tell people a little bit about that project, Broadway Worldwide?
Yeah, it's. I work with a guy named Bruce Brandwin, who has been ahead of his time in many ways over the past 40 years. And a long time ago, he thought there's got to be a market for pay-per-view Broadway shows, that people all over the world would love to see a Broadway show, but they can't get to New York or can't afford a ticket. And if we could some way capture it on television, then it would be the next best thing to being in the theater live.
Right.
And it took him years to convince the Broadway producers that was workable, that it would not hurt their box offices, that it wouldn't kill their road shows. But he managed to not only get the Broadway producers on board, but all of the Broadway unions, and then that was a big hurdle too. But in 2002, I think maybe 2001, we did the first one. It was a musical review called Smokey Joe's Cafe, and it was a really amazing production of songs from the 50s and 60s, and I, quite frankly, wasn't sure that Bruce was right. I wasn't sure that a stage production like that could translate what I had seen in the past of the capture of theatrical work was always a little hard to watch, and there was a little too many wide shots, and there was the booming audio, and the lighting seemed very steep, and even when you did take a close-up, the performers were performing for the back row, and so those performances in close-up looked a little too exaggerated and over the top. I said, I'm not sure this will work. But right from that first time we started Smokey Joe's Cafe, I realized he was right, and that television can capture live theatrical, and it can put you in the best seat in the house. It can put you in seats that don't even exist. It can make you feel like you are part of that experience. I compare it now to watching football live in a stadium as opposed to watching it on television.
Mm-hmm.
Both are very valid experiences. They're different, but valid. When you're sitting at home, you get to feel the rumble of the stadium seats. You don't get the smell of the popcorn. You don't get that sense of the entire crowd standing and cheering at a touchdown. But when you're sitting in the stadium, you don't get that instant replay, and you don't get the commentators,
right.
You don't get the odd, the original angles that cameras can give you, and it's similar in many ways to capturing a theatrical event. But we did 4 of them, I think, in the early 2000s, and we've done a few since. They just haven't made much money, and at first Bruce thought that they would be great for pay-per-view on cable, and then he thought maybe it would be could be shown in digital theaters.
Could it be a Showtime or Could it be Showtime or HBO on a cable channel?
Yeah, he's done some of that too, and they're starting to catch on in England. They're doing more and more of it here. The live television versions of Broadway shows that have been sort of restaged as semi-theatrical or semi-cinematic. Some of that, and that's why I say Bruce is ahead of his time, because it is catching on and catching up. But it is thrilling to do. And just to take it back to my original interest in being an actor and my theatrical life, to get that close to a real Broadway production has been magical for me. I love doing those.
And shows like Jersey Boys, Mamma Mia, they've traveled. I mean, I've seen them in Vegas, and they've been all different places. So you can move it from Broadway. You just have to figure out the right place to put it.
That's exactly right. And many of those musicals go on road tours anyhow to all major cities. Mm-hmm. And the producers were afraid of that. They'll say, people will say, I saw that on television. I'm not going to see it here in Pittsburgh. But Bruce had research that showed that kind of the opposite happens. That you see it on television, you say, "Wow, I'd love to see that live." It's just like you'd go to see the Rolling Stones 5 or 6 times, and you don't say, "Oh, I already saw it on television. I'm there to see them live." It's a silly. You especially for musicals, you learn the songs and you love to hear them again, love to hear them live.
Have you seen the show Love in Vegas? With the Beatles?
Yeah, I know of it. Yeah,
it's fabulous. If you ever get there, you've got to see the show. It's done in a theater in the Round. There's 3,000 seats, 9,000 speakers. Every seat has 3 speakers.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
No kidding.
It's unbelievable because I did a piece on them, and I met the audio design, and I said, "How does the audio work in this place?" And he said, "Take a seat." And I sat down in one of the chairs, and he played an airplane coming at you. You'd swear it's coming right at you. They have 2 front speakers from the seat in front of you and 1 behind you, so for bass. And it's unbelievable. It's a fabulous show. I think you'd really like it. It was a great show.
Very cool.
So speaking of very cool, I saw a video on YouTube, and your daughter was speaking. She has got to feel. She's got to be the coolest daughter because she's got the coolest father who's directing the coolest show on television. It doesn't get better than that. She must tell all her friends, right?
She went to LaGuardia High School here in New York, which is the high school for the performing arts.
Right.
It's the school that Fame was based on, and she's been in love with theater from the time she was 3 years old, and she's a pretty fine performer. But after her first year at LaGuardia, she said, "Daddy, I don't think I want to be an actor. I think I want to be a director."
Ah, there you go.
And I started to puff up a little bit. She said, "But not like you, Daddy. I want to be a real director."
Oh, nice.
I want to direct actors on stage, not that TV comedy stuff.
Right. Well, she must love it.
She's now she's at Carnegie Mellon and studying theater and studying directing, and I think she's going to have a bigger, better, more fulfilling career than her dad has had.
I don't know. That's good. That's awfully big shoes to fill. That's awfully big shoes. Don, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I know we could talk for hours. You really made a lot in this business, and the show looks fabulous. It looks great. I know you probably see mistakes and all that, but the viewers don't see it, and it looks like it. As long as you get on and off the air on time, everyone's happy, right?
Yeah, that true.
Right? You want to get
thank
off.
you so much, Antonio. Thank you so much.
Anytime.
Thank you, Don. I appreciate it. I hope I get to see you when I come into New York.
Call me.
I will. Thank you so much, Don.
Okay,
Thank
sure.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Be right back.
How many times have you wanted to let someone know that you were thinking about them and were at a loss as to what to send? Whether sympathy, friendship, love, inspiration, KarmicStones.com has you covered. They offer an expansive line of messages engraved in rocks that are sure to make an impressive statement. Cards get thrown away. A sentiment engraved in stone will be kept and remembered forever. KarmicStones.com offers the most unique and memorable gift ideas that are not only beautifully packaged and shipped, they're affordable and simple to send. Let them know you really mean it. After all, it's written in stone. Enter code PODCAST for 10% off your KarmicStones.com order today. That's KARMIC Stones.com.
Sports radio host, producer, news anchor, just a few of many more careers that the Connecticut School of Broadcasting could lead you to. Go csb.com or 1-800-TV-radio to schedule your studio tour. With an on-hands approach and instructors being broadcast professionals themselves, you're guaranteed to get a first-class learning experience. Get your career in the broadcasting field started the right way. Sports radio host, DJ, producer, news anchor, the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Go csb.com or call 1-800-TV-radio to schedule your studio tour today.
Do you have a special loved one who has a life story that you want to save for future family generations? Now there's an opportunity to videotape your loved one and have their life stories last forever. The time is now. Whether it's a life story, a special anniversary, or a veteran story, go to inyourownwords.life for details. And remember, when someone you love becomes a memory, that memory becomes a treasure. Because the goal isn't to live forever, it's to create something that will. Visit inyourOwnWords.life before it's too late.
And now, a final word.
Welcome back. Antonio, what do you think?
He definitely gave me the most thorough answer I've ever heard.
He's a director.
Well, I'm very impressed by it, but yeah, that he's cool.
He's
like
really
it.
smart. I never really worked for him. I certainly knew about him at CBS, and he had a terrific reputation. And I'm so glad he hooked onto this gig at Saturday Night Live, because this is going to be a great thing for him, and he does a great job of the show. I mean, it's just spot on. He's very good.
Well, it definitely did for all the years I was growing up watching it.
Yeah, no, I'm really glad he took the time to do it. I know he's very busy. They're off this week. That's why he was able to do it today, because usually on Wednesday they're doing scripts and stuff.
Just slammed booked.
Yeah, Wednesday to Saturday night, forget it. But he's a good guy. Okay, thanks again, Antonio. Thanks for working the board here.
Anytime.
And we'll keep in touch. Anyone have any problems, questions, solutions, whatever, email me, jeff@jeffkreiner.com. This podcast is growing daily, which is great. And I will talk to you guys soon. So thanks. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Kreiner'S Corner was recorded at the Palm Beach campus of the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.